Welcome back, folks. So we are going to continue with the next verse here. I'm a little short of time today, so we may not go all the time, but we'll cover as much as we can. So we went over the key verse. Uh, we spent almost 1.5 session on that. Na sato vidyate bhava, na bhavo vidyate satah. Ubhayorapi drishtvantah tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. And we saw that this forms the backbone of the Vedantic principles. And we saw that the meaning that is there behind this verse has been explained in several ways in different Upanishads. And then in this next verse, it is continuing the core sentiment, the core logic behind that concept is continued across a couple of the next verses that we are going to see. Okay, so the next verse. Well, before we start this verse, I want to give a quick recap of where we stand. We know that this in Kurukshetra, there is this battle taking place between the Pandavas and Kauravas. I'm deliberately given this context if somebody wants to or happens to start looking at this session in the middle rather than start from the beginning. So I'm just putting this context in that case, so you can follow what is being said over here. So Arjuna is in his chariot, which is driven by Krishna, and they are standing in this in the middle of the battlefield, and Arjuna is looking at his grandfather, his teacher, and cousins and whatnot, his family, his dear, his loved ones, and he is unable to fight. And then, which is in the whole of the first chapter, he is given all the reasons why he is not going to be able to fight, and he goes through an emotional breakdown, and he just basically succumbs to the stress, and he falls down at the feet of the chariot. And then Krishna is now explaining things to him, and he is actually scratching out some of the points that Arjuna has made. But at the same time, Krishna is being very practical. He knows that jumping right into the topic is because given the state of Arjuna, he is actually gradually bringing him to understand what is being said here. So let's look at this verse 17. Avinashitu tat vidhi jena sarvamidam tatam vinashamavyyasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. Avinashi. Vinasha is to destroy. Avinash is to be unable to destroy or indestructible. We have seen these kind of examples in our earlier sessions where you, by applying the prefix, you negate what the word, the meaning of the word in context over here. So if something is important, we add the word un. So it becomes unimportant, not important. Similar kind of thing is happening here. Vinasha is to destroy. Avinasha is indestructible. Avinashi tu tatvidhi. Know that to be indestructible. Jena sarvamidam tatam. Sarvamidam, all this sarvamidam, that which is yena sarvamidam tatam, that of which is pervading everything, you know that to be indestructible. Avinashitu tatvitti yena sarvamidam tatam. Vinasham. So the second line of this shloka, Vinasham. As I mentioned earlier, Vinasha is to destroy. Vinasham avyayasya. You Vinasham avyayasya na kaschit kartum arhati. So it is kind of the same thing, but there is a slightly different thing being said in the second line of this shloka. So second line is saying that it is not possible for anyone to be able to destroy this. So in the first line, it is said it is indestructible. And the second line, he's saying nobody is able to destroy it. So we saw that the way this creation has come into being, we spent some time over that. One of the things that we know is it was one theory is it was because of this Big Bang, where something happened several billion years ago, and there was a massive chunk of energy that exploded, and different things happened, and gas, dust, matter came into being. So this matter, this world that we interact with, the things that we see, the equipment that has been provided to us in order to interact with the world is such that it has got its inherent limitations. We cannot see in infrared, we cannot see ultraviolet. I mean, that's just a very basic thing. But even with what we see, once the image of the object that we are trying to see, once that image is formed on the retina of the eye, then it actually metamorphoses, it transforms into something else. Actually, it becomes an electric current, and then that current slash voltage is passed through nerve. This is a very well-known established fact, nothing new here. And then that information is then carried somewhere and processed at certain point in the brain. All this is known. What is not known is how the experience of a vision takes place. That mystery is not known. And that whatever it is that makes that happen, that energy, that mysterious energy is called by different names, by different people, by different kinds of people. By scientists would give it one name, a philosopher would give it another name, a mystic would give it another name, a spiritualist will give him another name, a devotee will call it another. So there's the same thing. It's like water that is flowing through a river being called by different names by people who speak different languages. It's being called water, or it is being called as pani, or it's called as neer, air, what H2O, a scientist would call it H2O. But the whatever water is, it is not changing. So this mysterious force, this mysterious energy that allows us to be able to experience things, which is a very grand thing. That is why we know we are alive, because we are able to experience. So that power which allows us to experience, that power. So this there is a um, there is a I don't want to use the word agenda, but there is an undercurrent that is flowing here. In Vedanta, there are four Mahavakyas, and there is some definition about what a Mahavakya is. But this Mahavakya, the reason that there are four, there's actually, there potentially could be more than four, but they do their job. So there's no reason, at least the rishis did not find a reason to come up with more than four. And even the four that are there are basically select phrases from Upanishads. We know that every Veda, towards the end of the Veda, is where the Upanishads sit. So from these four Vedas, suitable Upanishads have been picked. And from these Upanishads, these select phrases are there. So one of the Upanishads, which is Chandogya Upanishad, from that comes this Mahavakya. Mahavakya means Maha is great or big. So Mahavakya might imply something very big. So it's not really big from a grammar or alphabet standpoint, because these Mahavakyas are very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're unbelievably short. The reason that they are that small or short is because they cannot get any more shorter. It's just three words in Tat Tvam Asi. And this this Mahavakya, this Tattvamasi, if one were to ask someone what Vedanta is, or if you were to ask a Vedantist, what is this Vedanta that you talk about? Is there some summary? Is there something? Can you tell this to me in something really quickly? Can you tell this to me in really short form? And he would say, Tattvamasi, that is Vedanta. Aham Brahmasmi. There are four of them, but we are not looking at the others. We are just interested in Tattvamasi. So there are some people, in fact, who believe that, or not believe, but they have been able to somehow map this Tattvamasi into how these 18 chapters of the Bhagwad Gita have been broken down. But that's not why we are discussing it now. So this Tattvamasi, it is made up of two pronouns. There is a proximate pronoun. Proximate is closer to oneself, and then there is a remote pronoun, which means that which is away from you. So what they have done, the rishis, just like Einstein was able to boil down his very, very complicated theory and thinking, and even Newton, or almost any of these great scientists that are there, and these super genius rishis that are there, they fall in the same kind of category. E is equal to mc squared is Einstein's, why he's popular for this equation. So it's a very after the work that he has done, it looks very simple, and the meaning it conveys is very obvious, strikingly obvious, that here is energy and here is matter, and he has been able to equate them. So that's the stroke of a genius. He has been able to equate energy with matter. So you are able to use some kind of conversion, and they are in fact not two different things. In fact, energy and matter, they are one and the same, depending on the circumstance that they are in and the way they work. It either appears this or that. So the genius here is that of in this Chandogya Upanishad, there is a similar spark of a super genius that you can take a look at. So Uddalaka, which is um, the rishi who is going through, or who is the main character in Chandogya, he has laid this equation that the the remote pronoun and this, the proximate pronoun, they are equal. Tat, that, tvam, this, asi is this is that. This is the equation that you distill these thousands of slokas across different Upanishads and these Vedas and library of books that are there. You can read and all that, distill all that knowledge, and he has put this in this one context. Tat, that, thou art, this and that. This and that is equal. Is the equation he has put here. So here, what is being said is avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam. So that which is pervading this entire cosmos. So pervading is a slightly incomplete word because it is not just pervading, it is permeating. It is in fact nothing but that. So if you look at a blob of matter, if you look at clay, then when you are looking at clay, only because your eyes don't have the ability, you don't have that X-ray kind of vision, that you do not see that in fact it is nothing but atoms of different elements that make up this clay. It's nothing else. If you had that kind of vision, that X-ray, super X-ray vision, you cannot see atoms through X-rays, but just making a point here that if you had that kind of vision, if you looked at wood, you would say that it's nothing but the same atoms that you saw previously in clay. That's the same thing over here. If you look at a diamond, same thing, just the molecular structure is different, but it's essentially it's the same thing. So this, it's not like there is this space and then inside the space you have got this object. So that therefore the space, this object are two different things. It is only because the perspective that we have, the thing that we have been learning all our life, our mind has been conditioned to look at the world in certain ways. Of course, we have the limitation of the senses that we cannot see infrared, we cannot see ultraviolet, but on top of that, because of the education that we have received, our mind has been conditioned to see certain things a certain way, and then we look at the world in that way. In fact, the funny thing is that when we look at a image, there is a person who is standing in front of me. What actually happens is that when this image gets formed on my retina, it's actually upside down. The image is not vertical. It becomes upside down and then it gets interpreted and all that happens. So there was an experiment conducted a couple of decades ago, where uh, that that effect was neutralized. So there were lenses, there's a glass given to this person, which set this context right. So now what happened is, when you put that glasses on, you actually see everything upside down. And then you can imagine how difficult it will be if somebody were to give you those kind of glasses. You you will bump against every step you take. It will be hard for you to make any movement. You just try to go somewhere and you will feel as if you're falling down. Or and this person, he was asked to not take away these glasses and put them on for a couple of months. And then after about a couple of weeks, he could walk around his home, and he could make tea and something like that. And he was able to reasonably, move about in a reasonably good way. And after a couple of months, he took out his motorcycle and he was driving down the streets of London. They actually did this in London. So the thing is the conditioning that takes place. So we are not able to see this, but it not it is not just that it's pervades in the sense covers, but it permeates. It is through and through. It's everywhere. And this energy that is there, and I'm making a very material instance here, but remember that there is a sentient counterpart to it. So this energy that occupies in and through everything that we interact with or are able to interact with, this energy is indestructible. So this atoms that make up an electron, when you go down to that level, maybe at a certain point you might be able to say that this electron belongs to iron and that electron belongs to hydrogen. But when it gets into a soup kind of thing, you cannot distinguish between what is what over here. So this experience, this what we see in the physical world, and then it goes and registers in our being as an experience. In order for us to interact with something or to appreciate the existence of something, it needs to be an experience. That is one other thing that Vedanta is trying to make us understand. It is asking us to make an attempt to try and understand that everything that we know is an experience. And we don't have too much of time to get into this topic, but this experience is basically a event that rides on top of consciousness. So this word consciousness, it is being used by typically by the people who want to explain Vedanta using the English language. In Vedanta, there is, just like in English language, there's different terms that are used for this same energy. One of them is called as Brahman. So Brahman is derived from the root called Bra, which means to expand. So one other very popular meaning of that is vast, immense, immeasurable, infinite. But it derives from this vast, growing, expanding. And we know that from the Big Bang theory, that one of the theories of the creation of the cosmos, that this expansion, this explosion of energy is what gave rise to the cosmos that we are in now. And we saw, as a matter of fact, that contrary to what one might have thought, that this energy that exploded would have exhausted its capacity and that this expansion would slow down. Contrary to that thinking, it is continuing to expand. So that is the, in a sense, that is the that part of Tattvamasi. So that is all pervading. And then what is possible for us as a matter of experience is this consciousness. So this equation that has been set in the Chandogya, that is this. So they have been able to, and we are going to see this in some places in more detail. This is a topic in and of itself. I will try and cover wherever possible to highlight in the context in which it gets used. But this energy, the consciousness that allows us to have experiences, there is no doubt in our minds, or we don't have to stretch our imagination to make a statement that it is intelligent. Because we are intelligent, we see things and we make intelligent inferences about it, and we interact with that in an intelligent way. So we know that there is intelligence involved here in experiences which are possible for us to have because of consciousness. Consciousness, as I mentioned, is a poor word to be used for Brahman or Satchitananda, but we will say how we can qualify this word and make it at least a little bit better, so it comes closer to the definitions that are being used in Vedanta. And so the intelligence that is there, which is allowing us to experience, is obvious, but the intelligence that is there in this external world is not that obvious, but it is very much there. What is it that keeps the electrons to revolve, to go around the nucleus of an atom? Why is it that there is only a certain number of them that can be located at a certain distance and can behave in a certain way? And why is it that they can do a few things the way that they do? Why is it that gravity attracts object on Earth at a certain rate? Why is it that Earth goes around the sun at a certain speed and the sun pulls the Earth at a certain rate? And how is it that these two are balanced, and why doesn't Earth just get sucked into the massiveness of the sun? And why doesn't it get flung out because of the enormous speed at which it is going around the sun? So there is intelligence of a kind where experience is involved, and there is intelligence of a kind where the universe works the way it works. We may have discovered gravity, but we don't know how it works. We may have discovered electrons, but we don't know why they do or how they do what they do. We have exploited certain aspects of it, but this intelligence that is there, that is present and pervading the entire cosmos. This intelligence is indestructible. And what the first line says, that this is indestructible. Avinashitu tatvitti yena sarvamidam tatam. And then the second line says, Vinashamavyayasyascha na kaschit kartum arhati. That it's slightly stretch of imagination, but there's a reason why it is being said that if somebody were to try and destroy it, you will not be able to destroy it. Nobody can destroy it. It is indestructible, which kind of means the same thing, but it is being emphasized that if you try to destroy it, you will not be able to. As I mentioned today, I'm running a bit short of time and I may have to wrap up this session here today. But we'll continue next time. So thanks for listening in. Until next time, have a nice weekend. Thank you. Bye.